Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Aloha from paradise that is in Honolulu, Hawaii. And Sampurasun. I always open my public address anywhere in the world with Sampurasun. It is part of a useful local wisdom I inherited from the community where I was born almost 76 years ago in Bogor, a city in the West Java province of Indonesia. Sampurasun means I ask for permission to talk. And I also ask for forgiveness if what I say is inappropriate or incorrect. The audience replies with rampes. Yes, rampes, meaning permission to talk granted and apologies accepted. So you will reply with rampes, okay? Sampurasun. Thank you. So if I talk nonsense today, I'm already forgiven, correct? Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers, esteemed participants. It gives me a lot of pleasure today to be here with my old-time friends and also my new friends, albeit only virtually. I also thank the International Islamic University of Malaysia and the organizing committee for inviting me to give this presentation at the COMETIC 2024 gathering. Unfortunately, due to my present travel schedule conflict with this conference, I was not able to be with all of you in person. The Communication and Media Center International Conference, COMETIC 2024, with the theme Communication and Media Pause, Reflecting Values and Impact, is important and timely. Why so? It is because the digital revolution has thus far created at least two main societal problems. The first one is the widening gap and inequality of digital literates and digital illiterates. The second problem, there is this intergenerational conflict, not only gap, in families, academia, bureaucracy, and business. So my keynote today will focus on digital revolution, a pause or a renaissance. Do we need a strategic roadmap for solving it? Well, we all know that what revolutionized digital communication and virtual learning and the educational challenges are problematic. But I do not want to dwell on it because most of you are familiar with it. However, in the last 3 to 4 years, there are two main triggers which accelerated the sophistication and usefulness, but also the problems of the digital technology application and usage. What are they? The first one is post-COVID-19 mobile and virtual communication modality. And the second is the AI, artificial intelligence-based technology applications. So the conference team, Communication and Media Pause, asked us to reflect on and reconsider the values and impacts of digital communication technology revolution. One pervasive problem is the infodemic of half-truth. disinformation, of hoax and fake, or even slanderous news. This post-truth phenomenon created many public policy issues and controversies. There is a need for regulations, digital literacy education, cybersecurity laws, and forensics, for instance. Another problem is the inequality of digital communication competencies and the virtual technology availability gaps. Due to the overnight imperative of switching to virtual communication and education, most institutions, educators, and curricula are not ready. Many are not offering suitable, effective, and efficient remote learning strategies and methods, not only to students, but also for society at large who need to be digitally literate in the use of mobile and virtual communication. Hence, the widening gap between the digital literates and the digital illiterates. Furthermore, we now have a less personalized society due to the dominant use of virtual and mobile-based communication. Due to COVID-19, we have been transformed almost overnight to become digital netizens, virtual communicators, and remote mediated learners. As a result, we have become less personable as a person and as a society. And here is the irony. Interpersonal or face-to-face communication has decreased in intensity and frequency. However, the extensiveness of crowdsourcing, that is, relying and trusting on personal friends or like-minded persons such as web reviewers or online influencers, is increasing rapidly. How can we restore and increase more collaborative and integrative personalized communication and social behavior? There is a need now to improve personable family, group, and community spirit, interaction, and cohesiveness. We need to return to the humanness in our communication and education process, not increasing humanless interactions. This is one of the main reasons for the present transformation from Industry 4.0 era to a new disruption era of super smart society 5.0. This transformation requires a paradigm shift from digitalization to personalization. I will elaborate the new super smart society 5.0 area and the issues I have mentioned earlier in two videos of my keynote presentation in a 2020 conference in Slovenia and in Indonesia, which will be shown later. So, what strategic roadmap is needed for a renaissance of a digital communication revolution in the new disruption era? Let's just confine our discussion in the context of education. In the context of education, a growth mindset is what educators, especially senior professors, university decision makers, must have. The role and responsibility of educational institution has to change accordingly and fast. If not, university and professors will become dinosaurs. Yes, dinosaurs. So several conceptual issues need to be considered. In the educational process, the principles of humanity, integrity, ethical responsibility must be given more priority and attention. This becomes especially critical in the age of artificial intelligence-based technology application, including robotics, machine learning, and deep learning. So an educational renaissance is needed. University curriculum is needed to provide new and different competencies and skill sets required by human resources to respond to the market needs of the super smart society 5.0. With the ever-changing and rapid advancement of global know-how, the most useful educational tools is to master the process of how to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Obviously, the task and process on how to unlearn is the most difficult one. It is no surprise that only few people have succeeded or willing to do so. And here lies the biggest barrier to change in order to become relevant and in order to survive the competition in life. The irrelevance and inadequacy of educational offerings and outcomes are mainly due to the lack of a demand-driven curriculum, of a societal-based felt needs. In addition, there is also an inadequate transdisciplinary curriculum offering holistic, integrative, analytical, but practical, contemporary, and futuristic education. In view of the post-truth infodemic and the proliferation of viral hoax and fake information to hundreds of millions of people globally, educational curricula should incorporate issues such as ethics, moral integrity, netiquette, cyber laws, communication rights and responsibility, to name a few. As a storyteller, I also want to share my observation on the changing paradigm of educational outcomes at world-class universities globally. I just want to give one example of my own alma mater, Stanford University, which considers itself a failure if they only prepare graduates to get jobs. The task of great universities nowadays is to prepare their alumni to create new jobs. To do so, universities and the educators must reorient and reform their curriculum accordingly. It must learn from the younger generation of unicorn communipreneurs, edupreneurs, sociopreneurs, technipreneurs, etc. How? They need to listen to or even spy those young entrepreneurs, innovators, and the startup risk takers who have followed the footsteps of the Silicon Valley giants who now dominate global business and economy. It is the young generation of communipreneurs and sociopreneurs who have the tacit knowledge. They have firsthand practical experiences on successful business models of today, the strategies, the lesson learned of the companies of the future. They learn and gain such experiences and competencies through crowdsourcing, not from universities. They share and procure monetizable information through networking and or partnership with their professional peers globally. It is called the community of practice, COP, networking and peer-based learning. Most may not have obtained such tacit knowledge from their formal education at the universities, unfortunately, because the curriculum in most places are not relevant to the market needs. These young entrepreneurs also know and understand the competencies and skills requirement of human resource development, which are much different than those of the past. Unfortunately, such tacit knowledge may not be available and well known at most universities where senior professors are not quite digitally literate. Hence, the gap between digital literates and illiterates are also there among the relatively highly educated professionals. Such digital literacy problems are not only affecting negatively senior citizens and the educationally, technologically disadvantaged. Such a problem also created a widening generation gap, not only between senior professors and their students, but also a conflict between parents and their children. This situation appears to continue in many countries, especially in Asia. And this has become a generational conflict, not only a gap. It is true that many disruptors and young startup entrepreneurs may not reach their goal, especially in becoming unicorns or decacorns. However, some of them have become sources of inspiration and role models of the funk generations. That is the Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google generation. Now, in the last 3 years, with the advancement of AI, artificial intelligence, the rising stars and role models for the Generation Z today are those coming from the Mac 7, Magnificent 7 generation. They are from the world's largest market capitalization enterprises such as Apple, Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Tesla. Consequently, many children who are digitally literate have been exposed to new opportunities and different career choices needed in the disruption area. In contrast, many parents are not digitally illiterate and have not been adequately exposed to the changing needs and the professional careers needed in the era of disruption. They still have yesteryear's career aspiration for their children and grandchildren. The different and incompatible perception and expectations lead to problematic conflicts between children and their parents. Many parents still impose their insistence and directly or indirectly pressure their children to pursue studies and careers for safe occupations such as medicine, engineering, accounting, architect, law, etc. Consequently, large number of students are not able to develop and maximize their full academic and intellectual potentials based on their own passions, aspiration, and talents. Such intergenerational disconnect and incompatible perceptions on the future career and human resource development need to be addressed and mitigated. Educators must be trained to immunize and protect their learners from infodemic and disinformation. Education curricula must incorporate preventive and critical ability for students to become smart and astute learners and communicators to counterattack disinformation. As stated in the recent UNESCO policy brief of 2020, if information is empowering, then disinformation is disempowering. Let us now see a few concepts on how to develop strategies to combat infodemic and disinformation problems in distance public education activities. Afterwards, I'll be happy to discuss further these ideas and other related issues with all the distinguished forum panelists and audience. Okay, let's now share some information about infodemic and disinformation. Today we live in a post-truth era. And therefore, we need to teach our students, our audiences, on how to survive the post-truth world. Back in 1961, William McGuire, a professor at Yale and Columbia Universities, proposed a theory of communication inoculation, and he demonstrated that vulnerability to persuasion could be prevented by belief immunization. And therefore, public education from elementary school to university level, including non-formal continuing education for all, will have to include in their curriculum issues about criticalness and astuteness of communication processing, communicating ethics, integrity and responsibilities, netiquette in using digital cyber media, virtues of local wisdom, civic values and responsibility, including information filtering and management by applying principles of inoculation theory. In addition, such curriculum will need to include cyber law and digital communication ethics. It will also need to promote specialized education on cybersecurity and cyber forensics. And of course, to lobby and support legislation and reinforcement of such cyber law regulations and information privacy rights. The issue, however, is to balance privacy with our own willingness to control ourselves and to what extent we will need to have privacy data and information to be protected. In Europe, we already have the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. And these are some of the issues we need to address and discuss during our discussion. Thank you very much.